The hormonal control center of the body can be found at the base of the brain in a tiny pea-sized structure called the pituitary gland. This is here, and an overlaying region called the hypothalamus. This is the hypothalamus. Because the pituitary controls many other endocrine glands, it is known as the master gland. However, the hypothalamus wields even greater power because it controls the pituitary gland. Now you see the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland there marked, and if we enlarge the area, we can see the two components of the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland has got a glandular component called the anterior pituitary and a neural component called the posterior pituitary. Together, it forms the pituitary gland. It is also called the anterior pituitary or adenohypophysis, posterior pituitary or the neurohypophysis. Now, first let us look at the posterior pituitary. The posterior pituitary is called neurohypophysis because it has got neural connections to the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei in the hypothalamus. The nerve cells or the neurons are situated in the hypothalamus, and the axons traverse down and end up in the posterior pituitary. Now, you see the red neurons, these red neurons and the green neurons. The green neurons are the ones which secrete oxytocin. The red neurons are the ones which secrete the antidiuretic hormone. These secretions come and end up in the posterior pituitary via the axonal terminals. Now, whatever that is secreted through these neurons is carried on into the various parts of the body through the blood flow and the capillaries that circulate and surround the posterior pituitary. Now, the impulses or the release of the hormones from the hypothalamus into the posterior pituitary are twofold. One hormone is the antidiuretic hormone, also known as ADH or vasopressin. This stimulates the kidneys to conserve water and increase the blood pressure, whereas the other hormone is the oxytocin. So, the oxytocin sends its hormone into the posterior pituitary, and that hormone triggers the mammary glands to express milk and triggers uterine contractions in the gravid uterus. So, the posterior pituitary hormones are two, the antidiuretic hormone and the oxytocin. The antidiuretic hormone is also called arginine vasopressin or AVP in human beings. It is the ADH that is important for us to understand the water metabolism in this lecture. So, the anterior pituitary also secretes several hormones, and these cells that produce the anterior pituitary hormones are in the adenohypophyseal hormones. There are several adenohypophyseal hormones, but all of them are under the control of the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus releases certain factors and several factors to control the anterior pituitary hormones. Under the influence of the hypothalamic releasing factors, anterior pituitary secretes these hormones. In the anterior pituitary, the glandular cells secrete the hormones, and these hormones are released into the circulation, and they travel to the target organs like the thyroid, the gonads, and then the adrenal cortex, things like that. Now, From the hypothalamus, we have got several releasing hormones which end up in producing a stimulating hormone from the pituitary. For example, the thyrotropin releasing hormone or TRH triggers the thyroid gland to release the thyroid hormones through the TSH. The TSH is produced by the anterior pituitary under the influence of the TRH. The TSH acts on the thyroid gland to produce thyroxine. Thyroid hormone accelerates the metabolism, thereby increasing the body temperature and enhancing the growth and development of the body. Now, the gonadotropin releasing hormone GnRH is released from the hypothalamus. It acts on the anterior pituitary to produce follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone FSH and LH. The FSH and LH act on the gonads, in case of men on the testes, on the ovaries in case of women, and they trigger the development of the gonads and the production of the gonadal hormones. Now, the prolactin releasing and prolactin inhibiting hormone are secreted from the hypothalamus. They stimulate the production of prolactin from the anterior pituitary, and the prolactin promotes the mammary development for lactation in female animals and human beings, of course. Now we have got the somatotropin, somatostatin, which inhibits the growth, and somatotropin or the growth hormone releasing hormone which stimulates the growth. Both of them together control the production of growth hormone. The growth hormone from the pituitary, also known as somatotropin, acts throughout the body to stimulate protein metabolism. In this way, it influences the growth of cells, tissues and bone growth. Now, the adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus acts on the anterior pituitary to produce ACTH or adrenocorticotropic hormone. The ACTH controls the production and release of steroid hormones from the cortex of the adrenal glands. The main steroid released in response to ACTH is cortisol, a type of glucocorticoid. Glucocorticoids help the body to tackle stressful situations by increasing the levels of glucose and increasing the fuel in the bloodstream to meet with the challenge. And finally, we have got the melanocyte stimulating hormone and release inhibiting hormone. These hormones from the hypothalamus act on the anterior pituitary to produce melanocyte stimulating hormone or MSH, which controls the function of the melatonin. Melatonin, as we all know, is important for the circadian rhythm of our body, the sleep wakefulness. When we sleep, when we get up, our wakefulness, these are influenced by the melatonin, which is in turn controlled by the MSH from the anterior pituitary. Thus, the anterior pituitary hormones control various hormonal functions of the target organs in different parts of the body. With this animation we close and we get back to our lecture.